Okay guys, February the 19th, about 20 to 6 tonight. And the front bumpers are finally on the car. But it's not without issues. We do have one small issue over there on the passenger side, and I'll show you that. Overall, I think it turned out pretty decent. Now this is the driver's side. This is the side we modified. And when we modified this side, we did not mess with any of the mounting points. All the mounting points stayed the same. All we did was just add a little bit of clearance so the bracket wouldn't come in contact with this filler piece. And right here is the issue that I'm having. This is the driver's side. You see how tight that is. I can barely get my pinky finger in there. If we come over here to the passenger side, I've got the same gap coming around. Everything looks really good until it gets up to this bracket. And then you can see it kind of just sticks out further from the panel than the other side. It's about 1/4 of an inch probably. I can get my finger all the way down in there. And there's really nothing I can do to push it back up in there. It's kind of where it is. But let me take these bumpers off and I'll bring you back and show you what I think may be a remedy. This part right here is more of a 90. And if I come in here and I measure it from the edge of the filler, I get 1 3/4 inches. Put my ruler on the edge of the filler. Right at 1 3/4 inches. Now if I come over here and I do the same thing, I'm right at 2 1/8. So basically the bumper is bottoming out on this bracket, not letting it go forward. Come back up to here, and I've also measured, and I get 1 5/8 inches. So I've come to this side, and I measure, and I get 1 3/4 inches. So it made me a line at 1 5/8 inches. I'll come over this side, and I've made a line at 1 3/4 inches, and I've kind of free-handed a line down through here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this off of this bracket, refit the bumper, and see if it fits the way that I want. And then if it does, we're going to take this piece we've cut off. I'm going to try to maybe put a relief cut in here and bend it more of a 90 degrees. We'll probably take some material out of here, put this piece back on. You'll notice over here on Franken bracket that basically the bracket hangs over the filler just a little bit. And probably what we'll end up doing is adding another piece of metal right in here, welding it in. We may end up having to weld this hole up and re-drill it. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. I really didn't want to get into all of that, but I'd rather, if I can fix it right now, I'd rather fix it now at this stage. We're gonna go ahead and try it and see what happens. Well, we made the cut, and I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be pretty close. We'll have custom bumper brackets, and they'll fit the car pretty good. Let's take a look. So this here is where the bumper is actually sitting right now. with the modification that we made. Over here is the driver's side. Now what I wound up doing, I did pull this out just ever so slightly to where I could get it just a pinky distance there. If anybody's got an RS and if that looks about right, let me know. Because like I said, this is the first time I've ever seen the bumpers on this car. Got about a 1/2 inch gap from the fender to the bumper. Same thing right there. Now, if we come underneath the car, you'll see that I can't get a bolt in neither one of them places. I've got it pushed up so far. But we can work on both of those holes. But this brace here, it does square up in the bumper hole. So what we'll have to do, we'll just have to weld that hole closed, and we'll have to re-drill it in the correct spot, and then we'll have to make this mount work for us. One thing that I did not want to do is get into a situation to where I modified these bumpers. I mean, I guess I could, but I'd rather not get into it that deep. I'd rather just have them fitting the same on both sides without getting into all of that. And maybe I've got into too much anyway. I should have just bought new bumper brackets, but I got a feeling that the ones I would have bought would have been probably had their own set of problems. We'll have another Franken bracket, I guess. So appreciate everybody following along, and we'll get started. Don't do this. Don't weld your clamp to your workpiece. Well guys, this thing is ugly, but it's getting there. So I went ahead and cut the front of the bracket off. I've welded up the holes. Welded up this bottom hole as well. I've got a little bit of extra piece of metal on the back, and I've already made my reference marks where they're going to go, so we'll be able to weld this up, trim it out. And I've got a little bit more to take off of this part. It needs to come in about a 1/16 of an inch, and then I'll have to add just a little bit right in here. I'll probably cut this here and put another piece in on this part. We'll weld it all in. We'll make our holes where we need it, and hopefully we'll be done. Really all this is doing is just trying to get the face of it to match this one so the bumper goes back. And also, like I said, we need a little bit more material back here. The preliminary stages of it. And it's getting there. Well, here's our bracket, and my goodness, this was a lot of work here. But we got all good metal here. We got enough real estate that we can make our new holes and cut it out to fit. Boy, this was a lot of fun getting in there. So we're going to go ahead and get it fitted to the car, and we'll see what it looks like. Well, I've got my bumper bracket on the car. I got everything marked where I'm going to trim it out at. I've got my hole marked here. I've also got the hole marked on the bottom. Remember, we welded this hole up as well. So I've got that marked. And this bracket here has quite a bit of play in it, so we should be okay on it. And we're going to go ahead and start trimming everything out, drilling the holes. We'll see how it goes. Okay, YouTube, here we have the bracket, and had it on and off the car several times. I'm hoping this is the last time for the bumper mock-up, but here's what we ended up with. Overall, didn't turn out too bad. We did relocate this hole, and we did relocate this hole. We changed the front of it. We made it more of a 90-degree versus a 45, so that the bumper would come more up onto the bracket, and therefore putting the bumper more closer to the header panel. So let's go ahead and get it on the car. We'll see what it looks like. Just want to show you where we ended up on our mounting points. So everything looks really good. This one was able to tighten up. That's a little bit tricky one to get in because of that brace on the top side is kind of spring loaded against the radiator support, but this hole it is able to be tightened up. Just got to put the bolt in on that one now. Well guys, this was a lot of work just for about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. Finally have the bumpers on Project OverKill, and they're basically sitting in the same place on both sides. And this is the first time that has happened since I've owned the car. So I'd say it's been a long time. We still got to powder coat those brackets. I'll do that sometime this week, I think. I've got a few more videos to do on the front end of this car, and then it'll be time to move on to the next phase of the project. And I'm looking forward to that.